Hey there, my name is Alexei Ivanov, and I am a Principal Solutions Consultant at PegaSystems. Today, I'm here to talk to you and show you how you can achieve rapid results with intelligent automation using the Pega Infinity and the MarkLogic Data Hub platforms. My role at PegaSystems is supporting our federal clients in their mission-critical and digital transformation initiatives. For those who have not heard about PegaSystems before, we're a software company founded in 1983, and our headquarters is in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We support various industries like healthcare, insurance, manufacturing, finance, or government, where I'm mostly focused. And ever since our inception, our vision's been to change the way the world builds software. To do that, we offer a low-code, enterprise, model-driven development platform that we call Pega Infinity that enables our clients and our customers to build out very quickly and rapidly mission-critical applications that evolve and transform the way they do business, both internally and with external constituents or customers and clients. Unlike our competitors in the low-code or the digital platform market, Pega takes a drastically different approach in the way we structure our business architecture. Before we look at our approach, let's identify the two common mistakes we often see with our clients when they tackle a digital transformation journey. The first mistake many organizations make is starting top-down in the channels themselves. By embedding business and process logic into channels like mobile, chatbot, the website, contact center, and so on, can lead to a disconnected and frustrating experience both for end users and clients alike. And this also results in a massive cost and time to make those changes across all the channels individually. If you think about how quickly and easily you must respond to things like the recent COVID epidemic, you want to make sure to be able to roll out new processes, new policies, new applications in the order of days and weeks and not necessarily months or even years. The second mistake is starting from the bottom, hoping that by rationalizing your systems and the data, you'll somehow miraculously become more customer-centric, agile, and efficient. No matter how modern your back-end systems are, if they're in the cloud or on-prem, a lot of them are just basically databases built around products, lines of business, etc. There's no concept of an omnipresent customer journey or customer's intent. While building service-based APIs may make integration easier, history shows that embedding that business logic in a layer that is close to the data fails to keep pace with the needs and expectations of the customer. Instead of thinking about channel-centric or system-centric, we want you to think about a business architecture that's organized around the central heart of the business, the customers and their outcomes. Business architecture is important, and it's not just for IT. Business leaders need to understand and have an opinion about how and where the business logic lives in the overall architecture. We at Pega like to call this the center-out business architecture, and that's focused around the customer journey, or more specifically, the micro journey, those distinct elements of a longer customer journey that result in tangible outcomes. Our Pega Infinity platform allows you to capture those micro journeys in a way to achieve the center-out business architecture for our clients. So how do you design a center-out business architecture? First, you need a brain, an intelligence that operates across the channels and makes them responsive to what your organization or your agency already knows about the customer or the case at hand. That brain may use artificial intelligence or AI and traditional business rules to enforce policies and procedures. The brain can combine predictive and adaptive analytics to deliver the next best action in real time across any channel that the customer might be interfacing with. Secondly, your center-out business architecture requires case management to manage the context of the microjourney. If you think about it, cases break down into stages and steps, traditional BPM and workflow. The cases utilize the brain to add the muscle and the context to deliver the end-to-end automation. They can drive work to resolution efficiently and provide an audit trail to explain to regulators or auditors why and how the decisions and the processes were executed. Now that we have the brain and the case management in the center, we need to connect it up into the channels. In some cases, the channels will use the interface generated by Pega. Other channels might use other UI technologies like Angular, React, Salesforce, Lightning. To connect those, Pega offers the Digital Experience API, which describes the user interface, the fields that are needed, but allows the channel to handle the actual user rendering and the layout of the screen. As much as possible, you want to eliminate the complexity of the backend systems from making their way into the cases themselves. Pega provides a virtualization layer we call live data that does all the mapping, retrieval, normalization, and caching of the data, This insulates the users, customers, the business, and process logic from the complexity of the backend system. Critically, a center-out business architecture has to incorporate the inevitable variations of the business. These variations can extend from the channels all the way down to the system's record. You don't want to have 100 different versions of an address change process or form just because you operate in different agencies, different jurisdictions, different countries. Pega Situational Layer Cake scales in the micro journey across the dimensions like customer type, lines of business, geography, or department, and builds on the successes of your first market journey via reuse that's inherent to the platform. The layered architecture lets you start small, get a quick win, tackle immediate problems, and then extend and elaborate from there. You can get fast results using the Pega Express methodology that's baked directly into the low-code platform. And it can be provisioned directly on the Pega Cloud or under control in your client-managed cloud. Pega provides the rapid results for immediate needs of today and tomorrow and delivers a powerful platform for enterprise transformation. Just like Pega Infinity seeks to simplify the business architecture, the MarkLogic Data Hub platform seeks to simplify the data integration aspect of an enterprise. It provides an ability to integrate data from various silos, removing the friction and simplifying every step in the process. Organizations all around the world rely on MarkLogic, which is an operational transactional NoSQL database platform, to integrate their most critical data and build innovative applications that provide a 360-degree view. With the MarkLogic Data Hub platform, you bring the data in as is, curate it, apply security and governance, and make it accessible. It is flexible so you can avoid having to model everything at once, and you don't have to change it every time the underlying data changes. The Data Hub platform is powered by the MarkLogic database. With it, you get a variety of capabilities. For one, it's a multimodal database. This means that we have the ability to store and query documents, graph data, or relational data from a single database. Unlike every other database, MarkLogic has a search engine built into its core. This means you have immediate access to the ingested data without having to bolt on an external search engine. From a security standpoint, MarkLogic is way ahead of every other competitor in this area. Security and governance is critical in order to safely integrate data, track it through its use, and safely share it. MarkLogic is built for the enterprise and provides things like high availability and ACID transactions. Unlike other NoSQL databases that don't have true ACID transactions, MarkLogic can guarantee the consistency of data after a failover or recovery event. Of course, MarkLogic Data Hub platform is available on-prem or in the cloud via the MarkLogic Data Hub service. There is great synergy between Pega and the MarkLogic technologies. In 2019, the two companies formed a partnership. As part of this partnership, the MarkLogic Repository connector was created. The connector enables MarkLogic Data Hub to serve as a content repository provider for the Pega platform. This means documents, case snapshots, and case history can be stored in the MarkLogic database. This opens the door for MarkLogic Data Hub to be used for discovery, search, and storage of both Pega and non-Pega data at our joint clients. With these introductions out of the way, let's take a look at a demo. So I think we all agree that the COVID epidemic has disrupted a lot of industries. Things like telework might not have been available for many in the workplace, but many agencies and companies have now had to have the ability to support telework requests. In this demonstration, we'll see how one fictitious company can quickly and easily create a new telework request microjourney using the Pega Infinity platform. As part of this demonstration, we'll build one directly in the App Studio platform from scratch and hook it into the MarkLogic Data Hub to store the attachments and the data that has been captured as part of each individual telework request. As a thin client technology, Pega uses the browser for both design time and runtime environments. Here, I'm logged into App Studio as an application author. I can review the current state of the application, the personas, the channels that this application is supporting, what are the current microjourneys or case types that are currently defined, and what data is available. At any time, during the editing process, I can preview the end state of the application. As you can see, I've toggled over, and I can turn off the editing at any time to see the live preview of the applications as it would look like to the end user. Pega has built-in collaboration features using Pega Pulse, so you can have threaded conversations and have discussions around particular topic, cases, and even do a thumbs up. In this case, I see that Kelly Worker has assigned a task to me to create a Telework case. As part of Kelly's note, I see a user story was created in Agile Workbench. Agile Workbench is a capability that allows you to capture real-time feedback and track feature development. So without having to leave App Studio, I can review the user story, the bugs, the features, check out the complexity, the owners, any attachments, and provide my feedback. The user stories bugs are automatically synced with change management system like Agile Studio that's provided by Pega, or your enterprise change management system like Jira. Now that we have a user story for me to work on, let's go ahead and implement the new Telework request case type, or microjourney. By toggling back over to the overview screen, I can quickly navigate to the case type menu. In this application, we already have two case types, equipment request and timesheet. Since we're going to create a new one, we can click the new button and name our new case type Telework request. By clicking next, we're taken to the case type landing page. And this is where you define the stages, steps, the workflows, the data model specific to this Telework request case type. Obviously, we first have to create the case. It's going to be assigned to the employee to do via the user portal. And we're probably going to make use of the employee data that's already available in the system. After the case is created, the next stage would be the review stage. So the employee's supervisor or manager will have to come in and review the information that was provided and make a go, no-go decision. So let's assign manager as the persona that's going to be participating in this stage. Finally, after the review process, obviously there's going to be the resolution stage. In this case, we can mark the final complete stage as the resolution stage, and the system will automatically resolve the case as completed. Now that we have the basics of the Telework request, let's move on to the data model. Obviously, data is a key part of a case management application. Here, we're able to quickly and easily define the data properties that we're going to be using. There's various types available in the system, but in our case, we're going to reuse a complex type. So there's already an object in the system called employee, so we're going to just continue using that. Next, we're going to actually have the employee ID as a specific value that the employee provides. We also want to collect the telework address, or where they're going to be located when they're going to be teleworking. Next, we're going to fill in additional information like schedule type. In this case, it's going to be a pick list or a drop down. So the schedule type might be a regular 9 to 5 or some sort of a compressed schedule, 5-4-10 or 5-4-9, depending on what the employee wants to do. Obviously, telework type can once again be a pick list. In this case, let's use radio buttons instead of a drop down. And in this case, it could be, is it a regular telework request or, sporadic ad hoc type of a telework use case. So as we build out the rest of the data model, the idea here is we can quickly and easily, build the appropriate data entities that will describe the telework request. Some of these can come from external systems. Some of them can be defined specifically to the telework request. The last two properties are going to be of type attachment. This is how we're going to collect documentation from the employee and attach it to the case. So now that we have the data, let's define the processes. So first, we're going to have a multi-step form that collects information. First, we're going to ask employee about their employee data, employee ID, location, etc. Next, we're going to request to know what type of telework they're requesting. And finally, we would want them to upload documentation. So this is where the document properties are going to come into play. Let's update the particular process name to be enter request. For each one of these, we can define SLAs, or service level agreements, so goals and deadlines, how long we expect these particular steps to take. In the review process, we're going to use out-of-the-box ApproveReject step. This allows us to route a particular request or case to a manager or supervisor for approval. Once again, we can update the title to be a little bit more contextual. And obviously, approval has some business logic to it. So we can route it to a specific user like a reporting manager. So within Pega, we have the concept of a reporting structure. And then we can define the flow. So what happens when the manager approves it? So we're going to change the status to open. And if it's rejected, we're going to change it to go to an alternate stage, approval rejected. Of course, once again, we want to assign an SLA. So the goal and deadline, how long this should take. Let's add one more step. And in this case, we're going to use an automation. Obviously, if everything goes to plan and the manager approves, we want to send an email. In our case, we want to send an email to the employee notifying them of a successful Telework request approval. Here we can select who gets the email. So participants are core to Pega capabilities. We can define the subject. In our case, it's going to be Telework request approved, and compose the message directly from this viewpoint. Templates are available out of the box, and you can define your own templates depending on needs. And these can be something simple or much more complex, rich text HTML type templates. Now that we have the email, the approvals, let's define the actual views or what goes on each screen. So by drilling into each one, we have access to specific fields or the properties that are defined in this case. Here, let's go ahead and add several properties. So obviously for the employee data, we need the employee object itself. We need the employee ID. And then let's make the employee ID required. Obviously, we need the employee ID to process this particular case. As we're making these changes, Pega is automatically creating the end user screens and templates behind the scenes. For Telework request, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add several fields that we've already defined in the data model. So things like requested start date, schedule type, the address of the Telework location, the Telework type. All of those are quickly and easily being added to this particular step in the screen. Let's also make the requested start date required. This allows us to quickly mock up the end user screens directly from our App Studio. For the final document step, let's add the two attachment type properties to the screen. So the cybersecurity certificate and the Telework training certificate. So those will be uploaded as part of our submission. So even now with the basic user interface created, we can actually run the Telework request case type. Without doing anything else, compiling anything, we actually are able to step through the Telework request case. We see the stages, the steps, the properties that we've defined and added to the screen, the fact that employee ID is required. And this is the power of the low-code model-driven environment, where very quickly and easily we can create new applications, end user screens, forms directly without having to do a single line of code. On the next screen, the Telework data, we're going to configure the view. So that's the orange outline that's available only in App Studio. Here we can have a live preview to change the way the appropriate user screens function. Here we can select various templates. So in our case, I really like the 2-column layout. It gives us a little better sense of the information. We can use drag and drop to rearrange the properties or the fields that are being requested from the user. We could do the same thing on the right-hand side as well. Besides just rearranging, we can actually modify the way that the application functions. So in this case, our Telework type property, which is currently a radio button, let's add some helper text. So in our case, we're going to have a helper icon with an overlay. And we have a slew of various capabilities here that we can toggle, things like making it required, and also change the way it looks, right? I'm going to go with a horizontal segmented approach. So out of the box, various styles and layouts are available, and you can create your own. So very quickly and easily, without having to toggle out to a development environment, we can have a live modification of the end user screen. And as you can see, within several clicks, we were able to change this. Next, let's take a look at the location chooser. We can type in 1 Rogers Street, which is Pega headquarters, and our Google Maps integration will automatically place a push pin on the appropriate location. If I wanted to, I could drag this and the appropriate address would be updated in the data model itself. Let's put in the requested start date. And if we continue this, the next step in our process is to upload certificates, so the 2 attachments we've defined. So the cyber certificate could be a PDF, could be a Word. We support all sorts of types. Next, the Telework training certificate, and these by default will be stored in the Pega database. The next step, once we submit this, would be the review and approval. As you can see, the to-do list shows that the appropriate case has been moved to the review stage, and the manager is now responsible for the approval. Let's go ahead and actually add a little tag. So within Pega, we can actually tag cases and use tags to better search and categorize data. Now that we have our working Telework request case type, let's go ahead and extend it out a little bit. So integration is a key part of our data capabilities. So we already have an employee data type, which has department, full name, last name. In our case, this is not connected to any systems of record. So let's go ahead and do that. We can quickly and easily provide an integration to a REST service that, in this case, is hosted on AWS. The same information could also come from MarkLogic. So MarkLogic could have all the employee information already available via documents. And just the same way we're connecting to AWS via REST, we can do the same thing to connect to MarkLogic. Pega provides flexible integration options for any system of record that you might have in the enterprise. So getting back to the REST service, we can parameterize the requests, parameter names, and if we initialize the call, Pega will automatically make the initial call and pull in the data. Here we can start mapping the data that came back from the REST response to the data model we've defined. So in our case, we're basically using drag and drop to assign the appropriate hire dates, names, pay grades, offices from the REST service into the data model that we've already been using in Pega. So this allows us to quickly and easily start with a data model and hook it into other systems when they're available. We can define environment settings, so what is the URLs for dev, stage, or production systems. And with just that quick change, we're now hooked into an external system to pull the information about employees. Obviously, now that we have this, we're going to make some slight tweaks. So we're going to go back to the Telework request and modify the employee data screen to say that our employee ID is already required, but the employee, instead of being something, is going to be a data reference. So we're going to say that this is going to be sourced from the employee data source, and we're going to say the employee ID that was provided in the property above is going to be used as the key to make that call to the REST service. So by clicking submit, Pega is quickly updating the user screens and the logic behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and run this again. Since we changed the employee to be a reference to the REST service, Pega automatically made it read-only, and as you can see, when I'm entering various employee IDs, the data is dynamically being retrieved from the REST service and populated into the case. This looks great. So let's go ahead and add MarkLogic to the mix. So like I mentioned before, by default, documents are stored in the Pega database. This doesn't make a lot of sense in an enterprise perspective. So let's go ahead and toggle over to Dev Studio, which is a little bit more technical oriented, and enable for our application the MarkLogic Repository component. This is available on community.pega.com via the marketplace. So you can download it, install it, and it's available for you to use. Once we have this, we can define a MarkLogic repository definition. This is where we define the configuration to connect Pega to the MarkLogic instance. This includes the various transformations, collections, search capabilities, and we can even test the connectivity. So now that we've made this change, we can actually update the Pega application to use the MarkLogic repository to store the content. We can browse to the appropriate folder within the MarkLogic repository. As you can see, we have both the Pega and the Pega attachments as documents in the MarkLogic repo. And by making this change, we're basically saying that our application is going to be using that for all our content storage. The component has other capabilities besides just enabling content storage, but we don't have time to cover all of them today. So if we create a new Telework request and step through all the same steps we did earlier, filling in the employee ID, getting information back from the REST service, filling out the Telework request type, the Telework schedule. When we get to the document upload screen, it looks very much the same as it did before, but the documents that are being uploaded right now are automatically being stored in MarkLogic repository. Any transformations are happening behind the scenes. Any indexing that MarkLogic is providing is also happening. Let's go ahead and add another document as well. In our case, let's make it an image, so it's another document type besides PDF or Word. I'm going to use a PNG of a headshot that I have here. And the idea is just to show you various types of documents and what they look like. So once we've attached this, if I switch over back to the MarkLogic console view and refresh the screen, you should see that the 3 documents that were attached to this particular case are now available in the MarkLogic database. They've been appropriately tagged with their correct collection. Any transformations to extract the binary metadata have been applied automatically, all without having to do anything from the Pega perspective besides pointing the Pega application at the particular MarkLogic Data Hub instance. So in the span of the last 15 minutes, you saw a lot of things happen. We used the Pega Infinity platform in our App Studio low-code design environment to build from scratch a Telework request case type or a microjourney. Not only did we build the user screen, the process flow, the logic, we also hooked it up to an external REST service. And then we took it one step further and connected the application to a MarkLogic Data Hub instance. So what does that mean to you? So the benefits of using Pega and MarkLogic is that the data that would typically be stored in a Pega repository or a Pega database is now available in the MarkLogic Data Hub alongside of all other enterprise data. You can think of this as basically no silos. There's not a Pega silo or MarkLogic silo. It's a unified content and data storage repository. And now that the data is unified within the MarkLogic Data Hub, MarkLogic advanced capabilities like analytics and discovery, security, can be applied to the data and surfaced back out to Pega to provide that full 360-degree view of the enterprise data. On top of that, the same REST integration that we saw to AWS can be applied to the MarkLogic reference data that might be stored in the Data Hub. So as systems are being decommissioned and the data is being migrated into the MarkLogic Data Hub, Pega can make use of that reference data, that legacy data, as part of cases, microjourneys, etc. The possibilities are really endless when you apply the benefits of the Pega low-code application development platform with a technology such as MarkLogic Data Hub platform. I want to thank you for joining me here today. I hope you got something out of this presentation. If you want to know more about PegaSystems or MarkLogic, you can check us out online.